Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of He Says, She Says Film Reviews. I'm Dave G, and joining me,
Lee G.
And tonight we're going to be taking a look at the latest Bruce Willis film, and I guess I'm saying Bruce Willis film with a very, very loose kind of term there, because Bruce Willis is not in this film a hell of a lot. The film is called Cosmic Sin, and I'm just going to be really brutally honest. This movie would have gone straight to DVD if we'd been in a normal world, but because of COVID cinema, it's being billed as a huge blockbuster, and it's in cinemas. Now, Bruce Willis in this film plays James Ford, a kind of disgraced space army general who, while saving the world, did something that a lot of people think is completely unforgivable, and I can't really mention it here because it's a major plot spoiler for the film, but he suddenly gets called back into action when off-site, and we're talking 500 years in the future here. Not that you would know that watching the movie, but we'll talk about that later on. There's a little bit of a space skirmish between humans that are in space and an alien race. And suddenly they call James Ford back into action because they want his advice on what to do. But things take a really, really bad turn when some of the returning humans from space have had their bodies invaded by the aliens and they attack the base here on Earth. Now, this to me, I just found this to be a complete mess of a film, but I'll talk a little bit about why I feel like that a little bit later on. Going to throw it open first to Lee. What did you think of Cosmic Sin?
Alright, so as you know, Dave, I don't like to put people's work down because, you know, being in creative arts world, writing, directing, filming, all those beautiful, creative outworkings, I really respect. But I really just didn't like the film, and I don't like saying that because it's someone's work, and many people are involved in that work and have, put their heart and soul into it. It started off with a lot to read on the screen. I'm not a fan of that. I want to visually see things unfold for myself. I feel like if you're going to have so much written at the start, I'd rather read a book. But that's just a personal preference for me. I think that, of course, it's a very sci-fi action film. I didn't find it very original, though. We had aliens possessing bodies, the typical shooting scenes. I didn't feel like there was too much of a storyline that hasn't been done before. And Bruce Willis, he's a big star. He's someone that you watch the movie for. I felt that he wasn't in it enough, and that he didn't really come across as a lead role.
Yeah.
So that was a bit disappointing. I actually started watching it and I was a bit tired and ended up having to restart it and watch it again another night. I just couldn't get into it, and even after watching it the second time, it's not a movie I would really watch again.
Yeah, one of the reasons I was attracted to this movie was, as you know, I'm a huge Bruce Willis fan. I love my Die Hard movies and stuff like that. And recently I saw a different side to Frank Grillo, who is also in this film. I got the chance to interview him and learned that he was a really nice guy, and he just made this great new movie called Boss Level. So I was kind of expecting something special with this film, but I forgot one thing going into this movie, that Bruce Willis is kind of in this weird area of his career at the moment where he makes these movies that are like B and C grade action movies, and like I just had to flick through IMDb, and I've realized that over the last 5 years he's made almost 15 to 20 of these like really bad action movies. And I think I remember reading somewhere that he entered into some kind of deal that was like worth mega bucks, and he only has to have like small appearances in these films to get a paycheck from it. And I just don't know why he would do it. But at the same time, he's also making brilliant films like Motherless Brooklyn. It's almost like he is at a point in his career where he's accepting paychecks for these bad movies so he can go and make the movies that he wants to make that aren't going to be paying big bucks, like Motherless Brooklyn. But one of the things I found really wrong with this film was there's times in this movie where you can tell that it's not Bruce Willis in the background, that it's a stunt double, because the guy doesn't look exactly like Bruce Willis, and they normally have him facing away from the camera, so you'll have somebody in the foreground delivering their lines, and then you'll have the supposed Bruce Willis character in the background kind of like looking at a wall or something with his face turned away from the camera. A friend and I actually, when we watched this movie, were playing a game called Let's Pick Which Days Bruce Willis Wasn't on Set. So it's kind of almost a little bit weird. But the other thing that I had a big issue with this movie is it's set 500 years in the future, but at the start of the movie, they're driving cars exactly the same as what we're driving now, and somebody even uses a mobile phone that's a current mobile phone, and it's like, pretty sure things will have changed a little bit in 500 years. Is that something that you noticed as well?
Yeah, I did notice that. It kind of stood out a little bit.
Yeah. What did you think of the action sequences in this? Because I kind of thought that they felt a lot like what you would expect from a sci-fi television series, because they looked like the kind of action sequences made on a really low budget.
Yeah, it did come across as low budget filming there. And as I said, nothing really original there. Just lots of, gunfighting and the typical. I didn't stand out as anything really original.
You like to look for redeemable features in movies, even if it's a really bad film. Was there anything in this film that was kind of redeemable at all?
Oh, I really struggle with this film, just because it is not one that I would watch again. There's nothing kind of that would make me say, oh, this part was brilliant, even though the rest to me didn't stand out. So yeah, I really don't like saying that I couldn't find something in particular that stood out or something specific, but yeah, there just wasn't anything specific there for me.
I think for me, the only bit that kind of fascinated me was the question that this movie asks right at the start, and that is, does an army general have to face consequences when they do something that's deemed illegal, but it saves the day? There's a huge thing at the start of this movie where they're discussing James Ford, Bruce Willis's character, and you learn that the military are kind of divided about him as a character. That as he says, 50% of the people that he meets wants to punch him in the face, and the other 50% want to buy him a beer. And I thought that was a really interesting concept. If a army general does something that ends up saving the day for his people, but it's immoral or illegal, do you hold him to account for what he's done if it has saved the day? I thought that was a really interesting thing. But like the rest of this movie, I thought they kind of lost that as the film went on. I expected there to be kind of more of a standoff between General Ryle, which is Frank Grillo's character, and James Ford, Bruce Willis's character. But through some really awkward screenplay, they end up with them in two separate places, and they rarely share any scenes together, which I thought was an absolute letdown. I thought, too, they didn't really explore the relationship between Ryle and his son Braxton, who's played by Brandon Thomas Lee in this film as well. And I thought that really should have been kind of explored a little bit more, because it kind of has an important part to it. But I just think that Edward Drake, the screenwriter-director, really didn't go into those themes at all in this film. So was there any standout actors for you, or was it kind of just a little bit just ordinary?
Oh, look, I think Frank Grillo did quite a good job. With what he had to work with.
And there's an Aussie in here too, Adelaide Kane.
Yeah, and she did well as well. But certainly not, not a standout performance.
No. Like I said, I think really this movie, like these other films that Bruce Willis are playing at the moment, this film would have been one of those straight to DVD films. It's interesting because there's another Bruce Willis movie that's just come out here in Australia as well called Breach, and that did go straight to DVD. But because of the COVID things, they've put Cosmic Sin into cinemas. So, yeah, I think if you like your B or C grade action films and you have been a collector of these movies that Bruce Willis has been making over the last 5 or 6 years, you'll probably want to add this one to your collection because you'll know what to expect from it. And I know there's some guys out there who have been buying these movies to kind of laugh at them when they watch them. So, yeah, they'll enjoy this one as well. But yeah, for me, it's not really one of those movies that I want to go back and watch again. Having said that, that'll probably become a cult classic for some people. So I guess to finish up, because there's not much more to say about this film, what are you going to give this 1 out of 5 and why?
I'm going to give it 1.5, just because it didn't capture my attention. I had to go back and rewatch it. And as I said, just lots to read on the screen at the start. Which I didn't like that opening that you're suddenly just trying to read and figure out what's going on. And as I've already mentioned, just not enough originality for me.
Yeah, I'm going to give it 2 out of 5. I really hope that off the back of Boss Level, which is in cinemas right now, we never have to see Frank Grillo in these kind of movies again. He really shows in Boss Level that he has taken that next step. He can carry a movie on his own, and he's one of those actors that can, one of those rare actors, I should say, that can do action and dramatic scenes with ease kind of thing. So hopefully we never get to see Frank Grillo in these movies again, and I really hope that we get to see Bruce Willis in something soon that's a great film, because it almost feels like a waste that he's making these movies when you know he's such a great actor. And I just read online that I got all excited because I just read this article and it said Bruce Willis returns back to play McClane, and I thought, oh wow, they're going to do another Die Hard movie. No, apparently he has just made a commercial for Die Hard batteries in the United States. So yeah, hopefully he moves away from that and goes back to making great movies like Motherless Brooklyn that he did last year. So
he is a brilliant actor, and I think that's probably why it was disappointing.
Definitely. And that was our cat weighing in as well. So that's one of the things about this podcast. It's natural and filmed at home and recorded at home. So we had our little cat just come in and say hello then. But that's it for this episode. Only go and see Cosmic Sin if you're kind of that person that likes B-grade or C-grade action movies. But for now, I've been Dave G.
And I've been Lee G.
And we'll be back soon, hopefully with a movie that's a little bit better than Cosmic Sin.